And here's your moment of metal.
Hey, this is Rick and Lyle.
We're going to talk today about the rise of death metal in the early 90s.
You know, this new genre of metal was starting in the very late 80s into early 90s. And it was like the next thing. If you wanted something heavier and just a little more aggressive, you know, death metal was starting to get popular. And, you know, 1989, ironically enough, there was a band named Death. And most people that know death metal will say that that was the band that kind of started, you know, the death metal genre. They had the perfect name for it. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but the band Death, their first album was in 1989. It was called Leprosy. And they brought a whole new thing to the table as far as what heavy metal was.
Yeah, but a lot of the thrash bands, I think, are starting to run out of gas even then. Metallica released the Black Album, which was far removed from your typical thrash sound, and a lot of metalheads were probably looking for like something heavier, more aggressive, more brutal. And then they have bands like Deicide, Carcass, Napalm Death. I think Napalm Death was the death metal band that kicked the doors open for the whole scene. That was like one of the first bands I heard. And Carcass, for me, that was a band. It was kind of the bridge from thrash to death metal, where, you know, I made that transition because a couple of the death bands I heard at the time, I kind of liked it. I was like, you know, the vocals, what's funny with the vocals, which, yeah, I was even kind of turned off at first, like a lot of people are. Like, why do they got to sing like that? I can't understand none of the word, you know, the words. But after a while, you start to understand the concept of, well, all the music's been like made super extreme, make the vocals also extreme to match it.
Yeah.
Then it makes more sense. But Carcass was the band for me that just was the bridge. They had a lot of melody, like melodic, like a lot of groove in their sound. Super heavy, crunchy guitars.
They definitely had that. And a lot of the bands were, the technicality of the playing was just a step further over, say, you know, thrash metal or other, you know, metal genres before it, where they just took it a step further. But talent-wise, also the drumming, the bass playing, you know, the guitar playing on the technicality level, and it was just something no one's ever done before, heard before.
Yeah, and I think other thrash bands after the Black Album came out, I think they tried to follow suit. Like, okay, let's maybe, you know, slow the music down and make it more accessible for more people and stuff. And like, yeah, I guess like metalheads like me, and you know, they're always looking for the next faster, heavier thing. You know, once they discovered death metal, they're like, well, here we go. Back in the day, producers were having trouble trying to make death metal listenable. A lot of, you know, death bands went into the studios, and producers just did not know what to do with this style of music. And there was a guy in Florida at a studio called Morrisound. His name is Scott Burns, and a lot of death metal bands started finding out about this guy. And he was able to take that music and produce it where it's very listenable, where all the instruments, you know, you could hear everything really good, especially the double bass. Double bass was, you know, key in the death metal sound, also along with blast beats. The blast beat was introduced, I think, by Napalm Death. That was the first time I ever heard a blast beat, which really just adds to the intensity of the music. But Scott Burns, he was the man. A lot of people like Cannibal Corpse, when they found out about him, because they originally started in Buffalo, New York. And then when they found out about the Scott Burns guy, they just moved to Florida. But Scott Burns was definitely the death metal guy back in the early 90s. Every death metal band wanted to get to Morrisound Studios and have their album produced there, because he could really do a really good job where everything sounded really good and not all tinny or, you know, lo-fi sounding. And
obviously the music, you know, kind of spoke for itself. And then you had, you know, the imagery, you know, the album artwork was a little darker, was a little more gruesome, but it fit the genre. You know, it's almost like a horror film or like zombies and this and that, you know, but it's just kind of their theme.
Just like, you know, it reminds me of Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
like sure. Iron Maiden, like you're waiting to hear the music, of course, but you can't wait to see that album cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Cannibal Corpse the same way. You can't wait to hear the music, but you can't wait to see that album cover.
Yes,
because you know it's going to be just sick.
I don't know who the artist is.
Vincent Locke.
Okay, he's been Cannibal Corpse's artist. I don't know for their whole career, but for a long time he's done most of their albums.
And what's funny, if you saw the guy, you would think he worked in a library.
Yeah,
Wears glasses,
that's
very
yeah,
mild
that's true. I do
mannered,
remember seeing that.
soft spoken. You would never think this is the guy that's creating this. Just
You see interviews with these guys, and these guys couldn't be like more normal. You know, the singer for Cannibal Corpse. I follow his wife on Instagram. I mean, she's just, she looks all, as you said, librarian with the artist. That's what his wife looks like. She couldn't be more normal. They got 2 kids. He's up there singing all this crazy shit, but it's for the band. It's what he does for a living.
And what else can you say about death metal? I mean, like David Vincent of Morbid Angel, I think he said it best. Death metal definitely was like the final frontier of heavy metal. I mean, where are you going to go from here? As far as speed, brutality, technicality, lyric content, artwork, they really pushed it. They really pushed the envelope.
All right, hey, this is Rick and Lyle.
And we just got through discussing the rise of death metal in the early 90s.
And that was your moment of metal. Be sure to rate and review us and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.